Hakan Kjellberg, welcome again to TPM.
Thank you.
Nice to have you. Håkan,
good to be here again.
Håkan, today we're speaking about a funny topic, which in the end doesn't form to be also funny. It has to do with supercars, though, and with a very special pest species. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, I mean, the pest itself, it's called the brown marmorated stink bug, but it shows perhaps a problem or more a situation within the great landmass of Europe that we need to start to see the spreading or transportation of pest as a common problem, because what is a problem in, for example, down in northern Italy now with brown marmorated stink bug, and they're attacking fruit orchards and make apple look a little bit damaged already from the start. And from our northern perspective, like in Sweden, we discovered that there's a transportation of this pest, perhaps from those areas. So we discovered the brown marmorated stink bug. Our entomologist Thomas Persson did for a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, yes, this pest species, it's not a native species to the Swedish environment or a Swedish nature. But the thing is that the legislation is not really following the pest migrations, so to say.
Pests don't read labels, huh?
They don't read labels, and they don't understand this two dividing routes of like herbicides and pesticides or biocides, because this pest species was like transported from the northern part of Italy and those areas in containers up to Sweden, and it was discovered in a logistics center, in-house warehouse during a control, and those specimens were sent to our entomologist Thomas, and he was, yes, this is a brown marmorated stink bug. And the advice we gave to our client was really using IPM methodology, because we think, or based on what we know on the species, it's more threatening to the fruit industry down in Italy, but also it might be a threat to the Swedish fruit industry. So we said, do something about it.
So we have a couple of problems. A, we're talking about herbicide versus pesticide. B, we're not 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
B, we're not really looking at the EU as a whole, as a united nation. Basically, we're looking at singular registrations of pesticides and herbicides in various countries. We have the same with even traps, etc. Yeah. And also, we have an invasive species which causes damage that has not yet been brought up to attention of many people. Let it be the EU, right? So, are there any measurements of the damage? I don't know, in euros, in tons of damaged fruit in northern Italy that you could be aware of or guess?
I don't know the numbers or the financial behind it, but I know that the Italian growers of apples, they have received some money from EU to control this species down in Italy. So from our perspective, and this was the information we were that we gave to the authorities, because they said this is not like a quarantine insect. It's not a quarantine insect. No, but the money was spent in Italy, or they had for controlling it, shows, I think, that it's an alarming insect that we don't want to be spread within the great landmass of Europe. So I think we need to have a common understanding and a common approach to these kind of invasive species, even if it's invasive in different areas, east, west, north, and south.
Do you remember how much money it was?
No, I can't recall it, but I know that there was a fair amount of money.
Okay, interesting. And you said you use IPM methods, so I'm guessing boards, heat treatments, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, since it was an indoor pest, there was no pesticide approved for indoor use for the controlling of marmorated stink bug, because it belongs to the herbicide side of our decision tree. But again, I mean, IPM is also something that we use every day, every single day. So we thought of it, yes, can you remove it by using a vacuum cleaner? Yes, we can. Unwrap it, take out the plastic around the boxes or whatever it was, and then just use a vacuum cleaner.
Like with bugs, etc., it's still very
So it's and the weather is rather cold in Sweden. So we said, can you do that? It's just like physical removal of the pest, and that's it's a good suggestion, and it works. I think the important lesson is really to, first of all, know the species, the knowledge. Like we say that the professional side of our business is they really know what they are dealing with. So that's the first step. So
because if it's in Sweden, it is for sure somewhere in between Sweden and Italy. So
absolutely. And the second thing we as a part of the IPM, we think, I mean, the knowledge, the measurement, the analysis, and then of course using the right method for controlling it. And at this stage back then was physical removal was the right thing to do.
Yeah, it does make sense indeed. I mean, you were talking about big warehouses, right? So a heat treatment within a large warehouse or logistics center is obviously quite next to impossible. It's really hard to keep everything shut, especially in Sweden, where you probably have around 0 degrees right now.
Yeah. It's a lot of energy that needs to be used to control this species. Yeah.
Another question would be, there are other forms of stink bugs, obviously, that do not really cause a lot of harm to buildings, crops, or whatever. Have you yet treated other forms of stink bugs, and are there existent pesticides that we may
Not pesticides, but we use physical removal. We have some areas of like in Sweden where we have some of the some species that it's native to our area that can invade, be very, very in large numbers outdoors, like where you sit in the patio and where you have your So this is they are gathering at a wall, and people, I mean, it's large numbers. So, and that's, again, it's physical removal that's the key. Of course, you can explain why they are there, because you have some kind of grass around or some flowers or whatever it is. But the numbers are really that's causing the problems. It's So it's like a wallpaper of a stink bug. So different, So.
Yeah, it's actually hip. Yeah. Did you ever? What about a repellent? I mean, a repellent is also, it also needs to be registered. It's not like you just put some ingredients together and ta-da, you have a repellent. You can use it. But did you ever do trials? I mean, it's not the brown marmorated stink bug, obviously, because this was found in logistics centers, etc. Right? And the other stink bugs were found at walls. You hear pros and cons about repellents. Sometimes they do work, sometimes not. What is your opinion?
I think we need tools, and the methodology that we use as professionals is IPM, and IPM is based on a toolbox. So every single available tool will be of use or be useful in certain situations. So, I mean, the thing we see with repellents or have seen in the past is, of course, they can be diluted and the effect can be less, but that's the same thing with everything, because we don't want them to stay forever, because the knowledge we have about both biocides, repellents, or even that's a fact we know for today. I mean, what will be the thing for the future? I mean, we started to use DDT many years ago, and it was seen as this is the solution to everything. But looking back in the mirror and say, what problem did it cause? Yes, it caused a lot of problems. So I think we need to be a little bit careful and say that the products we use will stay there forever. Even if we're looking for better solutions, better for the environment, and as well as our employees and our customers. But we need to be very humble and say, yes, we need to reevaluate every single tool we have all the time.
Absolutely agree. I mean, it's so utterly important, and sometimes we see the things that we have as as a standard or as given, but to be honest, in a very dynamic legislative period that we are in, and in the next 5 years, there will definitely also be some more interesting changes for our industry, I'm sure, or at least it is to be expected that something is happening. And we always have to be aware that anything that is given for us to control pests in a given way could not be there forever. So we should always be curious, always be detectives and looking for alternatives. I absolutely agree with you. I also am sometimes very cautious and also frightful sometimes that a good means of controlling a pest is going to be phased out someday without us being really prepared for it, especially you as a large business serving so many customers.
Yeah, rightly so, and I fully agree with you, Daniel. That we need to, as professionals, have this in mind all the time. That a given method or a given pesticide or whatever it is needs to be reevaluated, and we need to think about the consequences of keep on using them if they are bad for like customers, employees, or environment. But we need to be very humble about it and say, yes, we need to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Yeah, we definitely need to. So I think that's also a shout out to everybody watching. Check your toolbox and maybe search and seek for alternatives, because it might be a day where you definitely want to need them and you need to be prepared. Preparation is everything. This is also what IPM is about. So we should definitely IPM our toolbox as well. But
yeah. And one thing for sure, I mean, the world is getting smaller in one way. That like the pests are traveling, they are hitchhiking, they are not traveling business class, but they are really traveling, and we can see that we have or will continue to have problems with invasive species or just species that shows up for a very certain time or whatever. But we can also say, due to the climate change, we might see a migration of pests that is will become more of nature.
Do you have any fears of any other form of insect that you think could damage or cause a lot of damage in your area? I know you operate in Sweden mainly, but is there any country of your organization, let's say France, Germany, or in North America, that is very fearful of any other sort of insect or rodent species coming towards the area?
We can see some, I don't recall all the species, especially not in English or the scientific names, but I know that there are some concerns about some species in some areas, and Europe is not left alone in this matter. So I think we can see the more knowledge we have as professionals, that the more knowledge and competence around the identification of species, we can become a huge player and an important player in both stopping, or at least that we are part of the early warning systems, and showing what is going on, and share the knowledge with the authorities around, with the European ECDC or whatever it is. There are some other agencies as well, but I think we have as professionals a very, very important role from now and future-wise.
It's on our shoulders for sure, yeah. And protecting our society, we definitely need to take this one serious. Håkan, another question that I have is, how did you spot in the very first place the brown marmorated stink bug? I am asking because I would love your opinion on how to early warning or early spotting of insects, of rodents. I know you, next to your competitor Rent-A-Kill, are head-to-head basically in a race of digitization of smart products. I know you yourself have quite a high passion for these things. So, did you spot them with any digital solution, or do you in future see a smart digital solution being brought out into all of your clients or crops and agriculture? Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, in a perfect way, in a perfect world, I would like to see these sensors out there being in a part of our early warning system. But from the time being, I think the most important thing is, like, we are CEPA certified, and we train our technicians in biology. When they see something different, this is not a normal insect for our technicians to discover. So when they get a feel of, oh, this is something new, I need to perhaps contact our entomologist, Thomas, again, and say, this is what I've found at one of our customers. What is it? Is it dangerous? What should I do? So, giving some advice. And then, so I think it's the learning that we already have in place within the scope of being CEPA certified is very important for us. And to answer your next question is really, yes, the smart sensors, we in a perfect world, I would say I would like to measure every single insect, both those insects that are more of an invasive species and also the common ones. And I'm really looking forward to see more of pheromones. Some of the insects doesn't perhaps we can't find pheromones, but can we find attractants? Can we use traps in a way that is just place it at the right spot, so just stumble into it? Those send a signal that we have caught something, and then you again need to analyze it. Of course, perhaps you can use AI in future or from now on, but I also think that the knowledge that is within the scope of the technician is still as important as before, or even more important in the future.
A customer is not being, a building is not being built after our smart pest product specifications. So it will be very hard, no matter how good technology will evolve, to have the perfect world solution, basically, where we don't need to go out anymore, and the AI is taking over the human intelligence and sorting all of it for us. So I'm pretty sure, there's going to be some years definitely that we still need for the solutions to come, to be used at a really good scale. But I think AI is very shortly to be supporting what we do, for sure.
Absolutely. I think the AI will support us, make perhaps quicker decision, or at least give us a possibility of like a new species or a species suggestion on it might be this. So you have a little bit of easier to dig down into it and see what it is. So I'm looking forward to it. But as I said, the combination of using digital technology, smart sensors, and skilled technicians in biology and mythology, I think that's the concept.
If you, to quote your CEO Jarl, it's the next best thing to sliced bread, which I can't forget, but it really is, to be honest. And everybody that watched the video, I really recommend to Google Microsoft and Anticimex, because you guys are already on some artificial intelligence stuff. So that's really, really interesting. Håkan, thank you so much. It's been really
thank you.
Out about something that I think needs to be brought to people's attention. Watch your toolbox. See whether you want to seek for new alternatives, because at some place you might need them. Look at Håkan. A couple of weeks ago, he didn't even know the brown marmorated stink bug probably would be able to pay a visit in Sweden, right?
That's super.
Okay, Håkan, thanks again. Great time.
Thank you, Daniel. Great to talk to you.
You too.